Gentlemen, welcome to the house.
Thank you for having us, Georgie.
Thanks for coming. It's really nice to see you here. And it was put into context for me that this is kind of an anniversary of the band, and I guess I willfully didn't pay attention to how many years it's been. And then it was like,
that makes
holy
5 of us.
Yeah. Well, this is it, right?
Yeah.
Are you reflective gentlemen by nature?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
Yeah, in some
we've been
regards.
talking about it for the last couple months at rehearsal.
Yeah.
Now, John found an old Pez tape that we were passing around in 1996 at CMW.
Right.
With a bunch of candy and stuff in it, with our demo tape in it. It's like, hey, listen to us.
Yeah, that's kind of nostalgic. But I think most of the time you're just so busy trying to keep it going that you don't get a chance to reflect.
Right. And what is
that's kind of what we were talking about today. It's like, it's not as if we've like hung up the skates and are looking back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we're still working harder than we ever have. So it's like, it's weird to kind of, when you put things into perspective of, you know, we've been doing this a long time, but it still feels new and fresh and exciting.
It's also this thing when you realize there's no thing to get to, which is a crazy realization, I think, as you get older, right?
Well said.
That's true.
Well said.
Yeah,
there's no like golden carrot that's at the end of the video game.
I mean, maybe Jay-Z has it. Maybe, but even that I don't know. Maybe when you have a liquor company. Maybe that's how you made it.
Yeah, when you have your gin line.
That's right. You know? Yeah. And so, I mean, what do you think about it, Aaron? Like the whole run?
Well, think about being a teenager trying to start a band in 1993. Like, think about that. Like, the bands that were influencing us back then and the stuff we were seeing on. I was looking back at the Grammy Awards had like Henry Rollins performing live. Like that was a great time to be in a band, and it's completely different now 25 years later, and it's just it would be really weird to try to start a band now. I don't know what kids have to look up to right now. It's slim, the amount of bands, and for us it was everywhere.
Yeah. It was the biggest bands in the world were selling out arenas, and you were never embarrassed by the lyrics. Right?
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they challenged you and they expected more from you, but it was just so I can see how that would be a pretty fertile ground for kids.
Again, a beautiful way to put it. Yeah, you know,
especially kids that live in the suburbs.
That's right. And that was our outlet. You know, is you would see bands like Rage Against the Machine or Tool and Green Day and Oasis and Blur and like all of Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden. Like, these were all
Chili
bands that were
Peppers.
coming out. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like that's revolution. And not to mention, like, that's just in that kind of genre, like in the hip hop world, that what was coming out at that time. You know, it's like it was really overwhelming.
Like Tribe and Pearl Jam put out records in Nirvana the same year, so like you could listen to everything. And that was also
And we're on the same tour.
And we're on the same tours, right?
Like, we saw that. We were all there. Yeah.
Which is pretty wild. I mean, talk about your experience in the band, man. Well, because you watched it from the outside, but had your own bands going on at the same time too that were getting success.
One of your dudes was wearing a David Bowie shirt that I was wearing back in probably 97, 98. I went and saw Billy Talent in Burlington, which is my hometown, and they were playing. Do you remember that? It was like this festival thing.
Yeah, that's weird.
Inside.
It's a Red Lion bar or something like that.
It's
I
weird.
remember that.
And so I was wearing this Bowie shirt, and you looked over, you're like, this song's for you, and you pointed at me, and then we went into a Bowie cover.
Love at first sight.
I just saw that guy wearing the shirt. I was like, that's the shirt.
Wait, and so you weren't in a band? Were you in a band at that point?
I was in a band called Hood Rat at that point, I think.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like a 3-piece hardcore punk band from Oakville, Burlington area.
Right.
Yeah, just an avid music fan. I remember seeing you guys,
cool.
and then
That's strange,
yeah.
eh?
That's
Weird.
really funny. What was the Bowie cover? Do you remember?
It would have been
Modern Love.
Yeah.
We did a killer Modern
It's the
Love.
only one we ever did.
Yeah.
When did you get a sense that this was going to be something that was going to work for you? Like you were going to be able to not have jobs and you were going to be able to do this?
Oh, wow.
I don't know. It was. I think it all probably hit us at different times, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think the kind of like the ray of light for us was when we started playing CMW in the late 90s and we started getting those report cards on Chart Attack.
Remember
and we
those?
got a bunch of 90s and then the labels started flying down and courting us. It was weird. It was a weird time. But that gave us the ray of hope, yeah.
There's a piece of me that always kind of thought, like, if we ever had the opportunity, if we could get our foot in the door, there would be nothing stopping us. But getting the foot in the door always seemed like a monumental step. And
Yes.
it just seemed impossible.
It felt like we've had two careers. You know what I mean? Like the first 10 years, we're just slugging it out and trying our best and no one believing in us and no one giving us the opportunity and doing literally every single thing by ourselves. And then we got a label who was like, hey, you guys aren't shit. You know, and they believed in us, and then that kind of just opened this doors to this whole other like next chapter.
But then you started selling records, and I remember when you guys were coming up. Obviously, I was a big fan, but what I was trying to say to the people who worked in the business at the time was, I don't think people appreciate how hard it was for a band that it was as heavy as you guys were to be on the radio. So it was you guys, and then Alexis came out, and I remember the radio rock stations were playing Screaming. And they weren't playing Screaming at that time. It was a really strange thing.
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting thing, and thanks for pointing that out. Because when we were, when we got signed and we went to Vancouver, we made the record. Like our expectations were very tempered because we had been playing at Ted's Wrecking Yard in front of our friends for 5 years. You know what I mean? And
which were great shows.
Absolutely, but they were fun. You were there, you saw them. But and then when that kind of happened, it just kind of changed the whole, I don't know, like the landscape of how we viewed things, it became possible
to be on the radio and to
be on the radio and have like someone like, but that's kind of was getting. It's like at the time it was like Tea Party and Moist and Our Lady Peace, and there's nothing the matter with those bands. But when we came out and all of a sudden you put us in between them on the radio, we were really different. And it sounded really different.
and it was the perfect timing too, because in the U.S. there was a band like The Used and remember Story of the Year, and that kind of sound was getting popular. So we kind of just were at the right moment at the right time on that record. Yeah.
Did you know? But you probably wouldn't have known that when you were making these songs and developing the sound, right?
No, not even a little bit.
We did what we did.
How did you get a sense of what your sound was going to be? Did you hear stories about these bands meet and they shared you meet those great British bands from the 60s and they met and they just like the same, we both like Howlin' Wolf. And that's how we got in. What did you guys bond on that helped you decide what the sound for Billy Talent was going to be?
It might have been Try Honesty.
Great question.
Yeah, it was definitely Try Honesty. I mean, we'd already always played hard music like Rage Against the Machine. We'd covered the entire first record. Yeah. And then when bands like Refused and At the Drive-In came out, we were like, whoa, listen to this. And we all really bonded over those bands. And I think it kind of opened more doors for us.
It's a pretty great place to be, isn't it, 25 years later?
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah, especially considering the landscape now has changed so much and is so different that we can, still be able to play and have people kind of care is pretty special, and we still care, which is the most important thing.
Do you look at the landscape sometimes? And I remember interviewing a couple artists who said to me off mic, not on mic, but off mic, they said, we don't know where we fit in anymore. And one really well-known artist,
kind of sad.
Yeah, he said to me,
heart hurt.
He said, I don't want to make any more records because I don't want to be the last guy at the party. And I remember pulling him aside and I said to him,
that sucks.
Dude, I said to him,
does,
who gives a fuck? It's your party. And I was actually kind of annoyed that he said that, but I was like, it's your fucking party, man. He finally came back and made good records, won a fucking Grammy or something. But he's like,
great.
But he really struggled with relevance. And I was at Coachella seeing there weren't as many rock bands as there used to be. And I'm like, I wonder what rock bands feel when the voice of youth isn't just a guy with a guitar or bass or a drum anymore.
Yeah.
Do you think about that at all?
Every day.
100%, yeah. I mean, you have to think about that when you're in a rock band because it's just not a popular genre of music as it was. So,
but rock and roll's always kind of been that thing where it's always, and again, not to be, it was cyclical, like where it was like dominant and then not, and then dominant and not. And I feel like there's going to be an upswing. I can feel it percolating right now that there's going to be, even the dogs agree. Yeah. That it's going to actually, there's going to be a renaissance, and I think people are going to start caring again.
Let's let it happen in the 20s. Maybe the 20s are when rock bands will come back. I've been saying the same thing for like 5 or 6 years. I've been saying something's going to happen, and it's just taking so long. But I just want to see. I just want to see a bunch of like young kids with drums and guitars and bass and vocals just doing crazy shit. Like they would be so and they're out there. I just want the people who put that stuff on the radio and on the videos to kind of be more attuned to it.
Right.
So maybe.
Or just create a space where we don't need them.
Exactly.
Maybe
100%.
we don't need the gatekeeper. Well, fuck, who am I talking about? I've been called a gatekeeper, but I'm not. I just play what I like. So, but like we have radio shows, we play whatever we want, and CBC lets us get away with them. But in its own way, there are kids that are coming. I think you're right. But now they grew up listening to Migos too, so they're fans of hip hop. So in the way that you guys would have been fans of hip hop when you were coming out, and I think if you were a rock band in the early '80s, you would never hear a rock band credit a hip hop band. Mm-hmm. Right. It was in the early '90s when that started to happen,
that's
right?
When hip hop became so prevalent in main culture too. At that time, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, we would listen to Tribe, like you were saying, and Public Enemy and De La Soul and Biggie Smalls. That's what I was like. That was what was on my Walkman.
Yeah.
Walkman
cassette tape, cassette tape.
Yeah, but and then yeah,
Beastie Boys, Fat Boys.
But it was also kind of cool back then because it didn't really matter about the. Like everyone was just accepting of whatever it was coming out that was good, that spoke to them, and you didn't have to be so. There was no like as many categories that you had to kind of.
Yep.
I am this.
Indeed,
it was like wasn't really like that. We just liked it all because it was great.
Because it was all great. Yeah. Where are we at with another record? Because this 25-year thing is nice, but at some point it's like, all right, fuck it, we're a band. So what are we gonna do, right?
Well, right now,
how many songs? How many songs have you got?
Well, I've been working on a bunch of songs and leftovers from the last record. So it's just something where I try to write as many songs as possible and then go through it with the guys and see what we're digging and then start working on those. So.
Have you guys signed off on a couple? Do you like a few? Have you heard anything?
There's a song that he has played me that is probably one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard, and I can't wait to work on it with him.
It's funny when whenever he shows me an idea, I'm blown away. So he's very he's got a standard about him that he won't reveal anything until I think he knows that it's going to knock our socks off. Like it's just one of those types of things.
That's pressure.
Like a magician.
Yeah,
he puts it on himself. Like
I wouldn't want to put anything out, with this band until it's great. So it's even if that takes 30, 40 songs. For 10 amazing ones, that's what we do.
I've heard a couple guys say that they go into Win Butler, he said to me that he writes 400 songs before they make a record, and I said, that's not true. And he said, it's true. Because for the same reason, it's like, I won't go in there unless I think we can win.
Wow.
Right? That's a lot of songs.
Excessive.
Well, actually, I called him, I'm like, that's not 4. And he goes, oh, yeah.
Wow, good for him.
40 seems like a lot to me. It seems like a lot. 40 seems like a lot. Are they... does the Build Your Talent sound evolve at this stage of your life and your career, or is it the same?
I've always thought we've had a sound of our own, and I don't think that's ever going to go away, but we're certainly going to try new things and new sounds. With that dog might be on some of the songs. So
work for Perry. Yeah, work for Perry Farrell.
Totally work for.
Indeed. Right. Well, thanks for coming in, guys. I can't wait for you to play today.
Thank you, George.
And thank you, George, for always being such a big supporter, not only of our band, but in this city and in this country, and giving people and bands and artists a platform. And it's really appreciated. And I don't think you get enough credit for it. So
my heart
kudos
is
to you
full
and,
for you guys.
Yeah. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you.